Okay, hello sa inyo. So, dito naman tayo sa third method kung paano mag-solve ng quadratic equation by completing the square. Okay, so dito na tayo sa third method in solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So, the first question is, kailan ba ginagamit yung completing the square? Okay, so we use completing the square if usually if the given quadratic equation is not factorable. Okay, so let us have the first example. We have x squared plus 10x minus 7 equals 0. So, this is an example of quadratic equation na hindi ka gagamit ng factoring. So, ang gagamitin natin is completing the square. Kasi as you can see here, walang factors ang 7. Pag tinimes mo, ang makakapagbigay sa'yo ng sum sa gitna na 10. Diba? Wala. So, ang gagamitin natin dyan is completing the square. So, the first step, pag ganyan na yung given quadratic equation, first step is transpose a constant sa right side. So, this becomes x squared plus 10x equals 7. Now, the objective is we're going to make the left side a perfect square trinomial dapat dito as part of the completing the square process. So, second step is rewrite lang natin x squared plus 10x. So, we're going to have a third term. Blank muna natin siya. Equals 7 plus blank. So, the question is, what must be on the blank? So, titingin tayo dun sa gitna, which is yung 10. No? Ang gagawin natin dun sa 10 is divide natin by 2. Okay, so, the first process is i-divide the linear term or yung b term by 2. So, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Then, you're going to square it. 5 squared is 25. To make it complete, kasi nga completing square. So, plus 25. Sa kabila, plus 25 din. Okay? So, what happens now in this side is a perfect trinomial square. Paano ba malalaman kung perfect trinomial square siya? Yung una, tsaka yung dulong term is perfect square siya. So, pag kinuha ko yung gitna ngayon, is with respect to the first and the last term. Okay? So, para makita natin yung ating pinapaliwanag, ganito siya. Kunin natin yung square root ng first term, which is x. Kunin natin yung square root ng last term, square root ng 25, which is 5. Since ang gitna is positive, then just put squared outside the parentheses, which is now square of binomial. So, pag binalik natin yan doon, pag chinek natin, di ba sa square of binomial, you square the first term, x squared. You multiply the first and the second term. So, x times 5, 5x times 2, so doble natin. So, that is 10x. Then, square the last term, which is 25. Then, add natin yung sa dulo. So, 7 plus 25, you have 32. Okay, so we're not done yet because meron pa tayong square doon. So, what we're going to do is to take square root of both sides. Para doon sa first method natin, which is extracting square roots, yung mangyayari dyan. So, what happens is you cancel the square root and square, leaving you with x plus 5 equals square root of 32. Since ang 32 is not perfect square, we leave it as positive, negative square root of 32. Yan. O, diba sa extracting square roots, laging may positive, negative. So, that's positive, negative square root of 32. Then, to solve for x, we just transpose 5 to the right side. So, that becomes x equals negative 5 plus positive, negative square root of 32. Yan. So, actually, hindi pa yan yung sagot kasi maghahanap pa tayo ng factors ng 32 na mayroong perfect square number. So, tingnan natin. So, yung 32, square root of 32, na may factors na perfect square. Ano-ano ba yung mga perfect square numbers? Diba? You have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Since ang 32, meron siyang factors na 16. Tsaka 2, diba? 16 times 2. 16 is the perfect square. So, kunin ko lang yung square root ng 16. That is 4 square root of 2. Mapapalitan na ngayon natin yan. So, from here, magiging x equals negative 5 plus minus 4 square root of. So, this is now the final answer. So, actually, there are two answers. No? Isang negative 5 plus 4 square root of 2, then isang negative 5 minus 4 square root of 2. Okay? So, that is our first example. Okay, number 2. So, we have x squared minus 30x equals 8. So, kung mapapansin natin, yung constant na ilipat na, no? Nandun na siya sa right side. So, our concern now is we make this side a perfect square trinomial, okay, by dividing this term by 2 and then square for computing the square. So that is 30 divided by 2, that is 15. 15 squared is 225. Okay, so we're going to add 225 on both sides. So that is x squared minus 30x plus 225 equals 8 plus 225. So this is now a perfect square trinomial. So we can make this as a square of binomial. That is, we take the square root of the first term, which is x. We take the square root of the last term, which is 15. Para malaman natin yung sign, doon tayo sa gitna titingin. Yung sa 30. That's minus. So, x minus 15 quantity squared equals, just add this one. 8 plus 225, that is 233. Okay? Then, we take the square root both sides. Cancelling the square root sign and squared. That will give us x minus 15 equals, since 233 is not a perfect square, we will leave it as positive negative square root of 233. Okay? And then, the next thing we're going to do is to transpose negative 15 on the right side. Is x equals positive negative square root of 233 plus 15. So that is the final answer. So there are two roots or solutions for this set. You have square root of 233 plus 15, and then the other one is negative square root of 233 plus 15. Okay, this example, we have x squared plus 10x equals 3. The same with yung sa second example natin, yung constant nandun na sa right side. So we're going to make the left side again a perfect square trinomial. So this is x squared plus 10x plus, so kanina you have 10 divided by 2 is 5 squared, that is 25. So plus 25 equals 3 plus 25. Okay, so this is now perfect square trinomial. We can make this as a square of binomial by taking the square root of the first and the last term. So x squared, square root niyan x, square root ng 25, 5. Para malaman yung sign natin, tingin tayo sa sign sa gitna. Yung sa 10x, so that's positive. Then you write squared outside the parentheses. Then you just add 3 and 25. That is 28. Then you take the square root both sides. Canceling the square root sign and square. That becomes x plus 5 equals, since 28 is not a perfect square number, just write it as positive, negative, square root of 28. Okay? And then, we transpose 5 to the right side, that becomes x equals positive, negative, square root of 28 minus 5. Okay. Now what we're going to do with 28, we have to simplify. There is a factors of 28 na merong perfect square number. Kasi required yun. So, factors ng 28 is positive, negative. So, factors nyan is 4, di ba? 4 times 7. Since yung 4 ay perfect square, kukunin natin yung square root ng 4, ilalabas lang natin. So, that is x equals positive, negative, square root ng 4, 2, iwan yung 7 sa loob, square root of 7 minus 5. So, this is the final answer. That is positive, negative, 2, square root of 7 minus 5. Okay, last example tayo. Example number 4. We have m squared plus 50m equals 4. So, ganun din yung pattern niya, no? Yung constant nandun na sa right side. So, ang gagawin na lang natin is dito lang tayo mag-manipulate sa left side using completing the square. So, you have, since ang b natin or yung linear term natin is 50, becomes 50 divided by 2 is 25. 25 squared is 625. Okay? So, we add 625 both sides. So, you have m squared plus 50m plus 625 equals 4 plus 625. Then, this is now a perfect trinomial square. So, we can make it as a square of binomial by taking the square root of the first and the last term. That is m, 625 is 25, plus, then you write squared outside the parentheses, equals 4 plus 625, which is 629. Okay. Then you take the square root of both sides, cancelling the square root sign and squared, leaving you with m plus 25 equals positive, negative, square root of 629. Okay? And then, you transpose positive 25 on this side, so that becomes m equals positive, negative, square root of 629, positive, so magiging minus 25. since wala namang 629 is not a perfect square number, there's no factors si 629 na may perfect square number, we can leave it as that. Iwan na natin siya as square root of 629. So the final answer is m equals plus minus, positive negative, square root of 629 minus 25. Okay. So that is how to get, or paano kinukuha yung solution or roots using completing the square method. So this is the third method in solving quadratic equations. Okay? I-cite ko lang yung aking reference book na ginamit para sa example sa to, yung Interactive Mathematics 3 with authors Oronce, Santos, and Ona. Thank you at very useful at very applicable yung mga references na or yung examples na ginamit sa librong ito. Ayan. So with that, thank you and good day.